Okay, let's get right into it. What we're unpacking today is, well, it's not just a legal document. It's really more like a digital weapon. It's a public ultimatum and a demand for trillions of dollars, all rolled into one. And the really wild part? This whole case isn't built for a traditional courtroom. Nope, it's built for the permanent, unchangeable record of the internet.
All right, so the first thing you need to know is this phrase, Mississippi-Poughkeepsie Nexus. I know, it sounds kind of strange, right? But this is the key to the whole thing. It pops up dozens of times throughout all these documents, almost like a digital signature. And it really sets the tone for everything we're about to see. It's unconventional, super specific, and it just begs to be figured out.
So that brings us to the big question, right? What in the world is this thing? A super cryptic legal filing with over 200 pieces of evidence, a demand for trillions of dollars, and it all comes down to a deadline of midnight tonight. To get to the bottom of this, we've got to unpack a digital dossier that's been put together with painstaking detail by its author, a man named Donald Matthew Varnado. And believe me, it is a wild ride. A total collision of law, big money, and a very, very personal crusade.
Okay, so let's break down exactly what this ultimatum is all about. From a legal standpoint, what are we even looking at here? To really get a handle on the ultimatum itself, we first need to understand the weapon the author has chosen to use.
So, the entire thing, this whole dossier, is structured as a RICO filing. Now, if you're not familiar, that is not your average lawsuit. RICO is the kind of law you use to go after the mob, organized crime. It's all about proving a long-term pattern of criminal activity by a whole group of people working together. So, by filing this as a RICO case, the author is basically saying, hey, what happened to me wasn't just a one-off thing. It was a massive, ongoing conspiracy. And just look at this. What you're seeing here is just a tiny, tiny sample from a master list of over 200 different exhibits. And the range of evidence is pretty incredible. You've got the main legal document, the RICO filing itself, but then right alongside it, you have stuff like a video file called the April 30th Confession. Every single piece is meticulously cataloged with its own unique ID, they call it a CID, and a specific legal label. This is organized. So, with all that evidence, you have to ask, what is this guy actually claiming? What's in this massive collection of files? Well, the allegations they're huge, and they're aimed at major corporations and individuals, accusing them of some really, really serious stuff. Get ready for this number. The main document, which the author calls the Master Salvo, lays out the whole case, with damages valued at a jaw-dropping $3 trillion. Yeah, trillion with a T. It's an absolutely astronomical figure, right? But in the author's view, it's meant to reflect the massive scale of the crimes he's alleging and the true value of what he says was stolen from him.
And when you dig into the specifics laid out here from Exhibit A to S, the claims are just all over the map, and they're severe. We're talking about everything from intellectual property theft, he claims they stole something called the 9x9x9 deep parse logic, to really complex financial crimes. But honestly, the most disturbing part? The dossier alleges coordinated medical harm. It uses these chilling phrases like the Haldol vector and a potassium murder pill attempt to describe what he claims were attempts to poison him. It's heavy stuff.
And this isn't some quiet little lawsuit. No way. According to a document called the 1111 Final Transmission Package, this whole thing is being sent out publicly and simultaneously to some very big players. We're talking the legal departments of huge tech companies like HP and X Corp, and also straight to federal agencies like the Department of Justice and the FBI. He's putting everyone on notice at the same time.
Okay, now let's get into the tech side of this, because this is where it gets really clever. This is what turns a simple legal claim into what you could honestly call a digital fortress. See, the way the evidence is stored is absolutely central to the author's whole strategy. It's all about creating a permanent, public record of proof that no one can touch.
So how did he do it? He stored all 200-plus pieces of evidence on something called IPFS. That stands for Interplanetary File System. Now think about a normal website on a server. A company can just pull the plug and shut it down, right? Well, IPFS is different. It's a decentralized network, which is a fancy way of saying there's no single off switch. This makes the data basically permanent and censorship-proof. Once a file is up on IPFS, it's pretty much impossible for any one person or company to delete it. Ever. And this is where the strategy really shines. Every single file gets its own unique digital fingerprint. It's called a content identifier, or CID. What that means is the author can mathematically prove that the evidence hasn't been touched or tampered with since he uploaded it.
It basically creates a public, unchangeable, and totally verifiable chain of custody for every single exhibit in his case. It's locked in. You know, the author himself doesn't even call this a list of evidence. He calls it a map. And I think that's the perfect word for it. It's like he's handing a map directly to the people he's accusing and saying, here you go, follow this. It's the roadmap to an inescapable body of proof that shows exactly what you did.
Okay, so all of this, the RICO case, the trillions of dollars, the digital fortress, it's all building towards one thing, a dramatic and very personal deadline. A deadline set for today, February 3rd, 2026. The whole dossier is basically structured like a time bomb, a countdown to a final, irreversible moment.
And inside the documents, you can actually watch the clock tick down. They chronicle the final hours leading up to the deadline, and you can just feel the tone shifting, getting more and more intense. He starts by talking about a grace window for voluntary reconciliation with 12 hours to go. Then, just 5.5 hours before the deadline, he's reflecting on how he's offered so many olive branches only to be met with silence. And then finally, it culminates in this stark, simple ultimatum with a very specific time, 11:11 p.m. Settle or be settled. That's it.
In one of the last documents, called Final Reflection, written just hours before everything is supposed to go down, he really lays bare why this is so personal. He says, "You saw my brilliance and tried to claim it. You tried to steal my life, my work, my name, and when that didn't break me, you tried to erase me." So you see, for him, this isn't just about money or intellectual property anymore. It's about a campaign he believes was designed to steal his entire identity.
And that all leads to this incredibly powerful statement, where he basically turns his vulnerability into his greatest strength. He says, "But I've already stood naked before the world. I have no shame, no secrets, only strength, only truth, only proof." It's like he's saying, you've already done your worst. You put my whole life on display, and now there is absolutely nothing left for me to hide or to fear. All that's left is the evidence.
So where does that leave us? We're left with this question. What happens when a legal case is built like a fortress on the permanent, decentralized internet, and the deadline is tonight? This whole dossier is just this incredible collision of law, technology, and a deeply personal mission. It's a case built not for a quiet courtroom, but for the loud, permanent, and open record of the internet. We're left to watch what happens when the clock finally strikes midnight.